Roll Tide, everybody. We're live for the show today. Catfish courtside, talking Bama hoops with you on this Sunday, and there's a lot to talk about. You got to give these boys their credit. You got to give these men the respect they deserve as one of the best teams in the country and a true contender to win a national championship. They showed that on the road at Texas A&M against a top 10 team last night. So let's go. All right, there he is, Mr. Catfish himself, Chad Anderson. I'm Mick Gillispie. Welcome to the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel, guys. Thank you so much for being here today as we talk Bama hoops. And Cat does a show every time they play, and also the bracket show. So I wanted to go live today just so I can remind you guys to make sure you watch, man. You're gonna get to March Madness, so you're gonna be like, oh, I'm jumping on now and I'm filling out my bracket, and Bama's a 1 seed. You need to be one of these people that was on early like this guy, but what a nice win last night.
Yeah, fantastic win. And we're all guilty of it, right? Because Alabama's been a football school for so long. Nate Oats has shifted that. You know, Mark Gottfried had a small window where he had a run and Bama was really competitive. And then you moved on to Anthony Grant, really never more than an 8, 9, 10 seed kind of program. Move on to Avery Johnson. Didn't really pan out the way you were hoping for. Again, never really did more than what Anthony Grant did. And then Nate Oats comes in. And this guy, Mick, has made Alabama basketball legit and exciting. And it's to the point that Bama's got a crap arena and Nate Oats is still turning down Kentucky to stay with the Crimson Tide. Like, people ought to get more excited. Not that they're not excited now, but basketball, you know, it should be one of those things, and we're all guilty of it. Like I said, you should be watching this team in November, not worried necessarily only about LSU and Auburn. You should be watching this team in November, watching them in December. And you'll see it more and more now that conference play has gotten started. People will jump in and get a little more into it. But, man, last night, I looked at the schedule with you a few weeks ago, and we knew the SEC was tough. Going on the road to South Carolina, that was a good win. I understand they're not very good. That was a good win. Winning last night, I don't care if Wade Taylor was playing or not. You went into a hostile environment. A&M was 13-2. They were also 2-0 in the conference. It was the first time they ever had a top 10 matchup in College Station. And Bama never looked back. I understand it got close at the end, but Bama came out, took the lead, and never let go of it. And they did that on the road, Mick. And I think if you look in past years, I'm scarred by the Mark Gottfried era where you never won on the road. And you go through the January slate, it's like, man, we got to go to A&M. We got to go to Kentucky. You know, we got to go to Mississippi State, who's top 15 team. To start out 3-0 like this, this is going to be fun, man. Like, this team's legit, and they're really coming together. They're playing some of the best basketball I've seen.
Yeah, look, I echo your sentiments, man. I mean, first off, you got to be good to go on the road and win. And it's just the way it is in in any conference.
Yeah.
And like, I look at, like the women's basketball, and they lost 80-40 to Texas, right? It's a mirage. The wins, you play easy teams, you beat them. This hasn't been a mirage. Alabama men's basketball plays the best of the best. They'll go wherever you have to play it. And the men's team used to do that. Godfrey used to have those years. You'd have 20 wins, and you'd look on there, and you didn't have any quad 1 or quad 2 wins. It'd be just like a bunch of cupcakes hiding. That's not what this team is built for. A national championship. And when you go on the road and you take the lead 4-2 and you never look back, it shows you how good you are. They kind of, at the end of the game, like, it got close, and then they just battled on the glass. They kept getting rebounds, offensive rebounds, and then the dagger by Mark Sears. Like, God, this guy's so good, man. I mean, he is going down as could possibly the all-time best Bama player. But it was awesome, dude. See him hit that 3, and it was like, shush the crowd. It's like, hey, man, you guys got close. You got it to within a few. And now we're going to put in. Before you blinked, it was back to 7 or 8, and and it was ball game at Texas A&M. So that's a top 10 team. Now the schedule's not going to get any easier. Bama's 3-0, Auburn's 3-0, Ole Miss is 3-0. They got to play Ole Miss coming up, but they got Kentucky coming up. There's so many tough games. You don't want to sit there and pat yourself on the back too long, but man, that was a great win.
Yeah, the first 5 games of the conference is one that was really going to tell the tale, because the back half of Alabama's conference schedule is brutal, Mick. I mean, brutal. Starting February 15th, Bama hosts Auburn, and then they host Kentucky the very next week. They also, I believe, have Mississippi State in there. And then they finish the year at Tennessee, hosting Florida, and at Auburn. Like, those 3 games are top 5 matchups going into March, and going down the stretch, and conference seeding and battling on the 1 line or the 2 line. And so to get started this way says a lot. And like you talked about, man, going on the road in the SEC, it's not easy, but that's what November and December prepares you for. And that's what Alabama has done with Nate Oats, is constantly just battle testing themselves over and over and over in, the non-conference part of the schedule. And it's paying dividends right now.
Yeah. And then the crazy thing is the team's so deep.
Yeah.
That, like Holloway comes off the bench. He scores. It's second straight game where he's been excellent. Chris Youngblood had a really big game, 18 minutes, 14 points. But was, just out there giving you quality minutes. And then there's times where Sears is the best player I've ever seen. I mean, at the beginning, not this game, but the game before that, where he just was a part of every score that Alabama had, helped you get off to a quick start. Even with Wrightsell out for the year, it's like that somebody else just plugs in and takes that spot. And at the beginning of the season, we were like, well, how are you going to get all these guys time and on the court and everything? But it's just the natural process of sports. And you slide somebody else in there. The thing I like about this team is that Nick Pringle's not on it. I mean, seriously, like that guy was such a pain in the ass last year, watching him just cause trouble constantly, missing flights, whatever was going on. Yeah. This team got rid of those type of characters. South Carolina can have him. And then they're focused on, I love how he inadvertently took a shot at his fans in the press conference after their close loss to Auburn. Wheels are turning slow up there, but it's like having like a group of guys that are kind of built around Sears and Grant Nelson that are focused like a laser on winning. And they got to the Final Four last year. The year before that, they had Brandon Miller. They were a much more talented team, but it felt like, well, obviously there was a lot of a lot of youth there as well. And then now all of a sudden it's like they came back this year with this single focus on trying to win it. And they look like a national championship winning type team.
Yeah, and I want to talk about something you just mentioned right there, and that's depth. And last night, Alabama needed it. I mean, there were a total, Mick, this was embarrassing by the SEC officials. Last night, there were a total of 58 fouls called in the game. 58 fouls called. Kentucky and Mississippi State tipped off 25 minutes after Alabama and A&M tipped off. They finished before Alabama and A&M finished. That game took almost 3 hours last night. There were 58 fouls. There were a total, I believe it was 88 free throws. Yeah, 88 free throws combined between the two teams. And correlating that to the depth, that's what's so big for the Crimson Tide when you get in those kinds of situations, because Alabama rotates 10, 11 guys over and over and over. And last night you didn't have Houston Mallette, who, they're talking about a medical red shirt for him, just because he's still having the knee issues. So he hasn't gotten on the court as much. He came in the North Carolina game. That was his first time to play, but just kind of still battling those knee problems. So they're looking at a medical red shirt, which would make sense because you're rotating 10. So do you really need the 11th, or would he be more valuable for his own future as a basketball player and for the team to just have him sit 1 year, come back next year and actually be 100% and able to contribute at all levels? But Mick, Alabama averaging 34 points off the bench. Last night they got 40 off the bench. 40 points out of the 94, just shy of half the production. In fact, you had 3 players off the bench in double figures. Out of the starters, only Mark Sears was at double figures with 27 last night. So when you get in games where it's physical, where you have foul trouble, where maybe somebody's not as hot, where maybe you have a matchup problem, you have so much depth and so many resources and so many guys who can just step right in. Grant Nelson had 2 fouls early. Amori had 2 fouls early. Alabama was just rotating guys in. Diabate, Reed, Sherrill. I mean, all these guys were coming in and being active and contributing. And the last piece of all this that's so amazing is I've talked about it early on and when we started this show, the length of Alabama. Just the way these guys with Stevenson, with Amori, with Diabate, with Reed, with Nelson, these guys cause so many problems around the basket. They cause altered shots. You get weak side blocks. You get all kinds of things where there's help side. It's just really difficult to score against Alabama inside. And the Tide, just the presence, again, of having to go in there amongst the trees, it's really difficult. And they can just rotate them in. I mean, I just named 5 guys that can play in those positions down low. So
Yeah.
the depth's really just such a big key for this team's future.
Well, I felt like too that they came out again and attacked, attacked on offense and attacked on defense. Like the defense is starting to come together. And I felt like at the beginning of the year, that was an area that was a little bit slow to forming. And now all of a sudden, like it's not just that they're going to score points on you, but it's also that they're going to be relentless as far as, attacking the loose balls. And I love the effort. Saw the video of Nate giving out the hard hat at the end of the game. And I'm like, man, these guys all want the hard hat, like they're playing for that. And it's not just, hey, here's a award to put on the shelf or something like that. But it's playing with pride and giving extra effort. The effort is the thing that is, you don't have to have talent to have, right?
Right.
A lot of talented guys lack effort, and that's kind of why their game isn't great. But this team showed it on the road at Texas A&M. This is a game that Alabama could easily have gotten blown out in, right? I mean, they're going to beat Texas A&M is going to beat teams in their home gym. It's going to happen. Some good teams, like they're going to beat an Auburn or a Tennessee. I'm still not sure about Ole Miss. We'll find out. But Bama, Tennessee, and Auburn are all, I think, legitimate teams that could make a run to the Final Four.
I think the SEC has 5. I would throw Kentucky and Florida in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi State's like on the edge of that, but they got beat at home last night against Kentucky. Quality team. Wouldn't surprise me if they pulled some upsets. Bama's going to have a hard time going on the road to them later on. But definitely Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, and then Florida, Kentucky, I believe all are Final Four worthy. What's crazy, though, and what I love too, Mick, is that Alabama, like Nate Oats has said, they just kind of lie in the weeds over here like Pedro Serrano, man. Like they're just over here just, nobody's really talking about them. Yeah, nobody's really talking about them, Joe Boo. There's just nothing's happening because everybody's focus is on Tennessee and Auburn and how good and how dominant they've been, and deservedly so. I mean, other than Tennessee's 30-point loss at Florida, but Florida, again, is a Final Four team. So I just love it. I love the position because the spotlight's not on Bama. Leave it on the other guys and let the Tide just kind of keep doing their thing and build their chemistry and let this team evolve more and more.
Yeah, love that idea too. So let's take a look at the schedule coming up, because, I mean, I feel like that's definitely worth a look because, I mean, you mentioned it. The schedule is going to be really difficult, but not to say they went out and played like a light, a light non-conference schedule. It's not like they haven't been tested here, but, just looking at the ESPN page, you got Ole Miss at home, at Kentucky, Vandy, and LSU at home. So, you like, at worst, you figure you're going to win 3 out of 4. And I mean, I hate to give those W's in there, but we're going to be at Coleman Coliseum. We're going to pack the place out. We're going to make it a great home environment. They're going to shoot lights out. They're going to beat these teams. The Kentucky game, it's always going to be tough at Kentucky when you're a ranked team, but it's also a measuring stick game. We'll see them twice this year. And then, you go to Texas, you go to Mississippi State, then Georgia. And then I know you talk about the back end of the schedule. I mean, like
Look,
Auburn,
February 15th. That's when it starts to get bad.
yeah,
Look
it's
at that.
rough, right?
Look at
So
that.
yeah, so you might as well just stick with what's next. Ole Miss, another team that's 3-0 in the conference. These are games that you got to go out there and win if you want to win the SEC.
Yeah, the Ole Miss game is tricky because you're at home. You're coming off a really good win on the road at A&M, top 10 team, and then you see Ole Miss here. But remember, Ole Miss's head coach is Chris Beard. Chris Beard had Texas Tech in the national championship game against Virginia. All right. He was at Texas before the whole domestic violence situation got him booted out. And then a year later, he was with the Rebels. And they were a pretty good team last year in his first year. And he's already making an impact. So this is one of those sandwich games that I'm glad they're ranked because it grabs your attention a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come off the A&M game and then you've got Kentucky on deck on Saturday, it's just an odd spot for a game against a sleepy good team, not a brand name, not a basketball blue blood. You just got to watch out for the Rebels because that's one that could trap you. Now, after Kentucky, Vandy and LSU, now I'm with you. 3-1 in this stretch right here, 6-1 going to Mississippi State. Worst case scenario, you finish out the month of January at 6-2. And then again, you go through kind of what you just did, where looking into February, you got 3 games, but 2 of them on the road. You should win all 3, but going on the road is so hard. You host Georgia, you go to Arkansas, Calipari's there, hasn't had a good start, still John Calipari. And then you go to Texas. Again, they're not an elite Texas team like in years past, but it's still a quality opponent on the road. So you just got to grab your W's in the conference, man, before February 15th, because once that starts, that's going to be a really difficult final stretch.
Well, and we'll be keeping an eye on it, and this guy right here will be covering it on our channel. So please, guys, watch the show, check it out. We're going to cover basketball just like we're going to cover football every day. And I guess it's just a little bit of football talk before we get out of here. And I want to remind all of you guys, too, that the promo code Bama Tailgate gets you 20% off at checkout, newlifeart.com. Everything but the new releases. So that's calendars, that's mugs, that's the canvas prints, that's the big ones, the little ones. All those awesome Daniel Moore Bama moments that he has basically inked into existence, like the grave digger.
Where's the pet away? You got that back there?
Yeah, hold on. Let me put
man,
that.
I love the pet away. It's basketball season. I want to see the pet away.
And I gotta tell you, man, this one, I'm really proud of this one.
That's a hard one to find, man.
Well, yeah, there it is, right there.
Right there.
That's our old buddy. Our old buddy, Brett got it for me. And I've been looking for that for years, right?
Man, I was sitting in that game. I was sitting 4 rows behind the Bama bench. And when Petway made that layup, I charged the floor from behind the bench. And, the redcoats are all the ushers, if you don't know what the redcoats are. The redcoats. And it was some poor, 80-year-old woman standing right there by the little gate that ran to the floor. She had no chance. If she got in the way, she was going to get a Dustin McClintock block. I mean, she was going to get pancaked right there.
The pancake posse.
Yeah. So it was a great night, man.
I was courtside too, man. I had the student tickets, the student radio tickets. I ran out there first. Did I know you back then? Did I know you?
No, I was in high school. So you ran press row?
Yeah, but I was in the first row. I was the first guy out there. I didn't realize that, at the time that we didn't run out on the court. I mean, hell, it was an SEC championship, and I turned around and then the whole court was full. I actually snapped some pictures, but I don't know where they are right now. I had them, the old snap camera.
Yeah, the old Kodak moment.
Yeah,
I just remember
disposables.
I remember chest bumping Kenny Walker in the middle of the floor. And I fell backwards and my glasses flew off, my sunglasses, and I lost those. Somebody stepped on them. It was all worth it. But yeah, I remember chest bumping Kenny Walker at the center court. That was great.
I'll take advantage of that deal. They don't have the put away, but hopefully they'll do a Mark Sears print. I've been politicking for one because
he deserves one.
He does. Maybe they'll win the national championship. Wouldn't that be great?
That'd be awesome.
Also, a little football talk before we close up. NFL playoffs in full swing right now. Derrick Henry trucked Minkah Fitzpatrick yesterday with one of his patented stiff arms. Why did the Titans let this guy go? I don't care because I'm a Raven and it was great. But it was awesome. Like thinking that like today's like the 9-year anniversary of them beating Clemson. And then to see Derrick Henry last night, 9 years later, you're not supposed to be that good that long in the NFL, just running over dudes. That was an impressive performance. Obviously, Marlon Humphrey out there as well for the Ravens. Both teams have Bama guys on it, but Derrick Henry, wow, I mean, he's still so good. So they'll have another week. The Ravens probably play Buffalo.
Bama on Bama crime out there yesterday. That was nasty.
It's one of those. All right, guys, we're brought to you by Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Now's the time to go ahead and throw your picks down at the Timeout Sports Lounge in Golden Moon Casino. Pick Bama to win it all. Go ahead. I feel confident that they'll have a chance. I don't know if they're going to do it, but they're going to certainly put up a fight, and we appreciate them. And then the most important thing on this show is this guy getting you into your next home.
We've been setting some people up, man, since last Monday. It was kind of like the holidays were over, Mick, and everybody kind of got back in the groove. You were through Christmas, you were through New Year, you watched some football, you did the family stuff, and there were 9 different people who applied just last week, whether it was a 0 down mortgage, a new mortgage with some down payment, refinancing, or HELOCs, home equity line of credit. But this new program here, if you scan the QR code on the screen, that's 0 down, literally no money out of pocket for a down payment, and you're able to get into a new home. And then we've also had, again, this HELOC Express is what we call it. We had somebody last Wednesday literally applied in the morning. They were closing and setting up with the notary that afternoon, and they're going to have their money in hand this week. That's how easy it was. She was from application to you're getting your money in about 30 minutes. And next week, she's going to have it in her bank account. So hit me up on that. Scan the QR codes, visit the website, shoot me a text or a call. I'd be glad to help.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging. Don't forget, Catfish courtside. Be back after next game. We'll do the bracket report. He's actually going to be in studio this week. So look for that as well. And have a great day. Roll Tide, everybody.